So, front-end developers, welcome. As you can see in my screen, what we are having here is useActionState, right? useActionState. The reason why I'm making this video is because I've seen a lot of front-end developers. All they know how to use is useState, and then useEffects. Some of them will use this useMemo sometimes, but you see this guy here and this guy here, they suffered a lot in the hands of front-end developers. So we're going to learn how to make our code more readable and how we can make our life easier with useState. So useActionState is far better if you want to have a state that hold the data, that the data will be sent to your database, sent to your server majority of the time. Let's say I have a data that a lot of the time I need to be updating it to my back end. I need to send in updates to my back end. Instead of using useState and useEffects, you don't necessarily need that. You just need this single hook right here, useActionState. So useActionState, as you can see, it will take the first parameter to be a reducer and then the initial state and then the primary link. I have never used this primary link for a while. I have never used it before itself. So how it works is, you see this action state here. The initial state will be the state here. That's the return state, just as your regular use action and use state. And then the dispatch action, you know how we dispatch action from Redux and all of that. So we are going, once we dispatch action, this is pending, it's going to return true. And then once the operation is done, that is update your server, you do a lot of things on your server, you do some assign and await in your reducers. Once that is done, then it will return false. So that's the beauty of it. So let's try that out, right? Okay, this is a Vite application and it's empty project. So let's put this use action state into the test, and then let's have action state.txs as a component, as a functioning component. Instead of that, I want to use it as a action state. And no, we are not going to assign, we're going to make it a functioning component, right? Yep. So we're going to return null for now, and then let's export default as the action states. Action state. Awesome. So right here we'll have our state, and then we'll have our dispatch, and then we'll have our is pending. We can call it is loading also, right? That will indicate when our reducer is performing a synchronized operation. And then we are going to call the use action state. And our reducer will be our first parameter, reducer actions, and then the initial state will be costing, and each 20. We are good. So the next thing we need to do is to define this reducer action, right? So in use action state, just as we have in use state, your reducer in use state is you take the first parameter is it takes a callback function, right? The callback function, the first parameter is the previous state, and the new parameter is and then it will return the new value of the state. So same applies to this guy here, this reducer action here. So this reducer action, what we have, let's define it here, and let's call it reducer action let's call it brief state new state. Did you see that? As you can see, this code is even becoming more beautiful. So this is the previous state, this is the new state. So anytime we dispatch, we pass it a new object as a state. It's going to call this one. The value we pass here will be the new state, and then the previous state is this, the initial state, and then will be here. And then the beauty of it is here we can have some assigned and await operation. You understand? We can have some assigned and await operation before we actually return the final value. I don't know, AI is talking too much. All right, so let's assume you want to send this new state, new data to your API, to your server, and then once you are done, you will return the new, whether the response, some of the response objects, and then anything you return here, it will be the new state here. You understand? And then once you have it here, you can render the UI on your front end. Let's say you have some div here, right? What is this now? You can render it like this. You can render the UI here. So let's put out a test. Let's await new promise. I'm trying to simulate your API calls. So right here, you're gonna have some API calls, some assigned and await operation. And once all this is happening, this is pending will be true. Once it is done and return your final value, it will return to false. Do you understand? So instead of using use effect, use state, use whatever, you can just make it easier and more readable with this use action state here. And yeah, let's call this, we have the resolve and reject. We only want to resolve the function, but after 3 seconds. Yeah, so we don't necessarily need this reject. So let's show it's pending. We will show loading. And as you can see, anytime we dispatch this with the name Austin, it will wait, it will do some server. Let's say you submit this Austin, the name is updated to Austin, you run the update on your back end, submit the changes to your server, and then return the new value. And then we want to change the H to 30 also. So this is a simulation of your API, and this is loading. It's gonna show for 3 seconds and then it will go away, and then this data will update. So this is actually awesome if you are working in project that is complex, is big. You should not always be relying on use state and use effect, use state, use effect, use memo. You should make use of, take advantage of use action state to simplify your work. As you can see how awesome it is. So we can actually test this function, but before then, let's render this use action state into our app.txs. You know, it's just a name of a company. You can name it whatever you want. And I think we're done. Let's test it. This is where, yeah, it's nice. So let's break and break. So anytime I click change name, it's going to show it's loading, and then after 3 seconds, it will we click change name, but nothing seems to be happening. Change age. Okay, change age actually updates after 3 seconds, but it didn't show it's loading. So let's click change name again. 1, 2, 3, 4. It didn't change. I think the reason is, let's change the name to, we are not actually changing the name, we are just updating. All right, let's change the name to John. And the reason why you see this is loading doesn't indicate, it doesn't return true and false, is because we haven't wrapped our dispatch function into a transaction wrapper. React requires you to have this start transaction here, this function here, and then wrap it like this. Yes, my code is becoming So once you wrap it into start transaction is a function that indicates or tells React what is happening. You understand? So once this transaction is called, it will take a callback function. In the callback function, you are going to wrap your dispatch function in it. So let's try. As you can see, it's working. Yeah, it's changed to John. Age is 30. As you can see, it's working. So that's basically how you make your code very readable and easy to understand. So instead of you to have this reducer action, you can have it somewhere like in a folder, a pair action. Then you can name it actions.reducers. Yes, you can have as many reducers as you want here. You can name them anything you want, and you just import it. As you can see, instead of you to have use effect, use state, use whatever here, I have done it with only one hook here. And as you can see, the code is very clean. It doesn't look messy. You can just come and, okay, you want to understand what is happening, you just click this guy here. You are going to see all the server operations here. Yeah, and if you check here, you see that it's working perfectly. All right, thank you.